Hey guys, I'm finally getting around to it and I need to address my succulents. So if you have succulents that are doing this, or this, or they've produced offshoots that look like this, or maybe have a long stem coming off the side of a container like this here, you can kind of see it in there. That's etiolation, and that is your succulent's response to low light, and it starts stretching out. And once that starts to happen, there is no going back. You cannot fix that other than by cutting it down and replanting it. And I'm going to show you how to do that because they're not dead. They just need to be told what to do. So I am going to fix my etiolating succulents here. And then also I'm going to show you how to propagate succulents because I've got this beautiful bowl I bought at Costco this year, and it's really tightly packed. Look at that, it's huge. There's echeveria, there's burro's tail, there's all kinds of beautiful things, elephant food, all kinds of gorgeous stuff. Now, in my experience, putting these in under my grow lights in the basement, whenever I do, for example, this container here, this with the Senecio, I guarantee you that if I leave this as is, even though I take really good care of them under grow lights, this guy here always develops mealybug. As well as I keep another type of sedum, and I'm forgetting the name of it offhand, that like clockwork always develops mealybug too. And it's just, once that happens, it's such a pain. So that is why I'm going to cannibalize this container and separate all these plants because they're so tight in there. And I want to make sure that I can carry these over for next year. I'm already thinking about next year with these plants. And buying sedums or succulents in general, individually, can get really costly. And these are all still very healthy and you don't have to buy more. As a matter of fact, I can make more plants. I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. But first, let's tackle the etiolating succulents. Let's start with this echeveria. Now, when the sun, this is in full sun, this will turn a beautiful kind of a pinky purpley color. It's gorgeous, and you can see some of those colors on here. But because it was more shaded this summer, and I totally forgot about it. Actually, it was out in the vegetable garden. I don't know why I left it out there. But this was its response. It started reaching for the light, trying to find more sunlight to grow, which leaves me with this still a very beautiful rosette, but this is not going to change. This is about 6 inches of naked stem. And there are still a lot of roots on here. So the cool thing about that is there are a variety of ways that I can propagate this. My preferred method is to just decapitate it completely and start from there. But there are other things that we can do too, especially if it's got roots. Once I decapitate it, I can leave this in the container and take care of it as I would as though there was still a succulent still growing in there. There is still a succulent in there. And what will happen is this plant will continue to grow and it'll force pups. Babies will start coming from the surface of the soil. So I could propagate that way. I could also just take the stem because there's roots all along the stem and just bury a portion of the stem in the soil too and propagate that way. I could leaf propagate, but I am just going to take it and do a dry propagation, do a rosette. So I'm going to leave about 2 inches of this stem so that I've got a way to anchor it into my succulent soil. But let me show you first. You want to make your cut with some clean snips or a sharp knife, and you want to give about 2 inches of stem length. Just like that. And we're going to start a new plant from this beautiful little rosette. And then once I've done that, I like to go in and any dead stuff, shriveling stuff, I like to remove from the plant. And if there are any shriveling leaves, I'll take those off as well. But this looks pretty healthy. I'm going to take off these lowest ones here and show you what I'll do with those next. There. Now I've got this beautiful little rosette. Now I just like to let my cutting sit out for about a day or two. And all that does is allow the area where I cut to callus over. So that way it prevents, when I do go to plant, it prevents root rot and any pathogens from getting in there and interfering with my perfect little plant. So let's just say this is calloused over. And then I'm going to go in and take some succulent soil. And all that is very gritty soil because succulents like really well-drained soil. So all I would do is once I've waited the 2 days for this to callus, going to make my little hole in the center and plop that in, push it in just so there's good contact, and water it in and then put it underneath my grow lights. Within several weeks, it should form roots and start growing and be very, very happy. Let me show you a successful stem propagation. So this is burro's tail, and I took these cuttings last summer, or actually just this past summer, from the mother plant, which is in this container here. And these were, I just cleared the stems so that the stems were naked and then plunked them into the soil and then kept an eye on them, kept them watered. And of course I let them callus over first and then I planted them. And I've got this perfect little container of burrows tail. So that's what I do for stem cuttings. Now with the leaves that you remove from some of these plants, for example, the echeveria here, all of these leaves that I took from this little plant that we planted up, they snap off really easily. So all of these little leaves can become new plants. Now, if they're healthy leaves, now what I mean by that is you don't want to try and do a leaf propagation, and I'll show you the difference here between, so we've got a nice plump, succulent looking succulent leaf, and then there's this one that's already kind of shriveling. Can you see? There it is, yeah. So that's shriveling up. It's already kind of struggling. I wouldn't use this leaf for leaf propagation because it's already compromised. You want a nice plump leaf because the water that's in the succulent leaf is what's going to carry it over and fuel the pushing the roots out and fueling the little baby plant that's going to form at the base of this. And all you're going to do is allow them to callus over like you did with the stem cuttings. And then once you give them a day or two to callus, then I like to set them in succulent soil. Just make sure that they're in contact with the soil. And you can arrange them as pretty as you want to arrange them. For the sake of the video, I'm going to pretend like I had enough leaves to finish all of this and all of this calloused over, and then I laid it out in the soil. Then I'm just going to go in and mist them. You want to keep them, add some moisture to it so they don't dry out completely. And I would be very careful about the type of light you put it in. If you put it really close to, like, let's say you have LED grow lights, that is a very intense light. So you want to make sure you're bringing you don't want them right underneath it. It could just burn them. They're very sensitive at this point. Any new little baby growth too is very sensitive. So you want to, a windowsill is nice, anywhere where it's kept warm, or a distance away from your LED grow lights because you don't want to fry your babies. So you'll just check on these, mist them as needed. By doing this, you'll have even more succulents and you didn't spend a dime other than your potting soil. Now, if I really wanted to maximize my propagation methods, I could even go ahead and propagate this stem because it's got roots on it, nice, healthy pink roots. I could take a cutting from it. If I wanted to, I would just take a portion of it, let it callus over, plant it in the soil, leave a little bit of it above ground, and over several weeks, it will anchor in the soil and start to force up a new pup above the soil. So there are many ways to propagate succulents. This guy's looking pretty sad. The burrow's tail is in pretty good shape, but the senecio is kind of shriveling up a little bit. I'm going to clean this up, take some cuttings from it, and let them callus over and plant later. Now I want to get after the big guy here. There's a lot of spent flower stalks on here, and the pollinators absolutely love succulent flowers. They can't get enough of them. So I'm not going to dig around in here too much. I am going to go ahead and just decapitate as many of these things as possible, with the exception of a few of them, but there's just a lot of echeveria, a lot of different types of echeveria. I think this one here is my favorite one. This is a painted echeveria. Isn't that beautiful? So I'm going to just start cutting them off and getting them out of here and see how far I get. And last but not least, got a broken leaf here. Oh wait, this is an aloe. So I am going to pot this guy up. It's got a pup on here too, so I've got a baby. I can separate that or leave it if I want to, but this is going to be the only one that gets potted up right now. While the bowl has been cleared, I got so many cuttings. I shouldn't have to buy any succulents next year for what I plan to do. I am going to let these guys callus over for the next day or so, and then I can start planting. And that's all there is to it. There are so many different ways to propagate succulents, and fortunately, it's incredibly easy to do. And I am probably going to have more succulents than I know what to do with. So, and I'm holding this here because I wanted to show you what this looks like when you've got the difference between an etoliating succulent and one that's been cut back is it just looks so much better in the pot. So it'll rest like that in your container, and it just looks like this perfect little, looks the way it was meant to look in your containers. So that's why you cut them back, and that is how to do it. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.